Okay, sweet.
And we are live here at Shift Happens, a production of Advanta-STAR Automotive Research. And with me tonight is Rick Peter. Tell us about yourself, Rick.
Well, let's see here. Going on 40 years in the car industry, from sales up through sales manager, general sales manager, GM, director of operations. I've also been a corporate sales trainer in the auto industry, own my own company, and basically work with dealers throughout the Midwest. I used to work for a while as a regional representative for the True Car organization. And then years ago, used to work with Advanta-STAR as well. And love the car industry. I guess tonight's subject is going to revolve a little bit around kind of getting back to some basic core principles that need to be adhered to in the auto industry. And the industry has kind of gotten away from them. They want price to drive everything. And it's like the problem is there's no value and you don't get any brand loyalty or dealer or salesman loyalty out of just having the lowest price. That doesn't get it done.
Yeah, if they don't forget you a week later, then they in a week later with all kinds of heat and trouble.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what do we have first on the agenda, Walter?
So I didn't make the agenda, but I have a bunch of news articles if you want me to share my screen and go through them.
That'll be fun. Yeah, let's do that first.
All right.
What's new in the news? Other than the fact if you ask for a newspaper, people will either lock you up or give you some geriatric medicine.
Yeah, I can't find them anymore. I still look for them.
All right, so first, Toyota blows through tariffs for record global sales in 2025 on hot U.S. demand from Automotive News.
Yep, 2025 was a hot sales year. We talked about it last year. It was really the hottest sales year on record since 2019. And of course, COVID kicked that fire ant hill over real quick.
Yeah, I was actually approached by a company out of Las Vegas that wanted me to go hit the Toyota stores a couple of years back in the bi-state area here in Missouri, Illinois, and wanted me to be the front man to procure their big SUVs for sale that were going to go overseas. Well, that violates a problem that Toyota has, that sales have to remain domestic and stay in the country, that kind of thing. I'm sure there's a handful of, transact, but they don't want it to be any kind of a standing policy. And when they first told me about this, I contacted a bunch of stores and they had inventory on the ground. And I was like, you don't understand the way the car business works in Missouri and Illinois. Unless you're the buyer, the dealers really aren't going to give you time of day. It's not the way they operate, not the way they function. Toyota has been blessed, obviously, with the last decade or so, especially with having some of the hottest brands on the market. And so high demand and dealerships were, hurting for inventory. And with them, something that something about here in the St. Louis area, a dealer that was down on South Kings Highway, who was probably in second to last or last place, is now the last 2 years been the number one Toyota store in the St. Louis market because they moved their location right off of Hampton and 44. And they're now the number one Toyota store in the St. Louis metro market. So kind of an amazing turnabout in a short period of time.
Wow.
To turn that operation around.
Yeah, location can often be key, but there have long been dealerships that bucked that sage wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to turn really obscure locations into, nationwide powerhouses.
Right.
But yeah, so it works both ways. And there have been those sad, hapless dealers that were located at the crossroads of like two major locations in a prime neighborhood and couldn't sell chocolate bars to a diabetic.
Yep. No, Toyota's sitting obviously in a very good position right now. Sales are up. Their CSI is good. Their reviews when it comes to quality and everything else from the number of third-party sources, they're still right up there at the very top of the list. So they're firing on all cylinders, that's for certain.
Yep. Except for their electric cars, which I guess are spinning on all armatures or something. We have to come up with a new phrase for that. I just came up with that, spinning on all armatures. I think that works.
No, it's accurate. That's for certain.
Although their one electric car is not exactly burning the world down.
So it looks like they had record sales globally, 11.3 million vehicles. Um, says a lot of it was surging hybrids, which, that makes sense. We've been talking about that quite a bit.
Yeah, I think the hybrid market is prone to really explode more so than the full-blown EVs.
Figuratively, though, not literally. Figuratively, though.
Yeah, the price of oil has obviously begun to plummet, and as that does, and as they continue to offer new leases and so forth for drilling purposes, the amount of oil that's been procured out of Venezuela and so forth, gas prices I think are going to continue to drop. And in the St. Louis market, we're down to about $2.60 a gallon, but other parts of the country, some cities are down to like $1.99 a gallon. And as those prices drop, wow.
I paid $2.89 a gallon for premium a couple of weeks ago, and that was in New Orleans.
That's cheap.
The boonies, yeah.
That's cheap.
And now, in the old days, say early 2000s or the 70s or the 80s.
Yeah, don't call the early 2000s the old days, please.
Yeah, sorry, bud. Yeah, that was the old days. A big change in the price of fuel like that would have doomed hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it does have an effect on full electrics, but people, number one, they want to cover their bases. They want to make sure that they hedge their bets. But also, who doesn't like, taking only 5 minutes to fill up and having it only hit your pocket $20 and then driving for most of the week? So
right.
The hybrids, and to a lesser extent, the plug-in hybrids are still, sailing pretty.
Well, take, for example, Ford. Ford's been toying around for the last decade now with their hybrid F-150, which was set to kind of be the bench standard, right, of what the full-size, half-ton, truck format was going to be. And they had some models that, combined fuel economy were, going up into the mid to high 20s for a half-ton truck, which is, off the chart, right? So, then everything started moving towards, we hit COVID, and then you had fuel prices going up, 5 years ago. And, it kind of put all that on a back burner. They introduced the Lightning, and that's great, and it's fantastic, and it's a great tool if that's what you need.
Until but just now when they discontinued it.
Yeah, I think the big thing now is that, again, the combination, like you said, people want to be able to shift gears, okay, and be able to, fuel prices are low, I'm filling up, right? If I got the, the electric I can put in there as well and utilize to my maximum effort, well, that's what I'll do. And I think that's where I think the industry as a whole is going to be going towards, because the energy cost is going to provide for it. It's going to make that a much more viable option. And honestly, let's face it, the manufacturers don't like losing 10, 15, 20 grand a unit on an all electric. Okay. It doesn't help their bottom line. Right. So, I mean, I think that the hybrid is definitely going to emerge out of this whole thing, I think, in the next few years as the number one platform.
Yeah. And I think Toyota probably had the most rational explanation, is that if you have to mine, so many pounds of lithium, refine it, so many pounds of cobalt and all these other hard to get materials, why not put it into 10 cars that would get 40, 50 miles per gallon instead of putting it into one electric? So
right. It just makes, economically, it makes more sense, and especially with this whole new reserves out of Venezuela coming online. I mean, the sky is the limit. And I don't think we'll even recognize or feel the full effect of that for probably 6 to 9 months. But when that finally comes to realization, and maybe we got gas around the country at $1.90 to $2.10 a gallon, you know what? Everybody's going to say, yeah, that hybrid looks real good. I think that's the way I want to roll,
For sure.
So, either that or bring back the 440 with a 4-barrel in the Charger.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's crazy right now, but I've got a 1968 Mercury Cougar with a 390, been bored and stroked out to 445 cubic inches, makes a little over 600 horsepower and 600 pounds of torque, and it makes the torque way down low. It makes like 95% of its torque below 3,200 RPMs. So it's
That's
like a diesel.
probably, yeah, it's probably more pull than even you got out of the old Buick nailhead.
Oh yeah. And it's, but you know, the thing of it is, I mean, hell, last year I was filling up at almost $4 a gallon. I would love to see the gas at, you know, 275. Nothing would make me happier on that end. But the side of it is this: I've got a set of 300 limited slip gears in the back, so my fuel economy isn't too bad. I get about 12, 13 miles to the gallon. And you know, when you really look at it nowadays, I mean, you look at the brand new Shelbys, and you look at the last couple of years, the Hellcats, and the, you know, and so forth. That's about what they're getting, and that's fuel injected, computer controlled, the whole 9 yards, right?
And people forget that Mama's, you know, 283 Power Glide grocery getter used to get about 12, 13 miles per gallon.
Right.
Most of
so
the time.
it's, I think it's it's a great thing. We get fuel down that low, and you know, I'm not even going to go into the whole concepts of what they're coming up with right now with algae farms and the amount of oil that's produced out of something that rapidly grows. That's a never-ending renewable source. It eats garbage and it poo-poos out oil. You know what I mean? And it's like that's a heck of a combination to have. And that, and the other side of it is like Venezuela. Most people don't know this, but for really almost the last 25, 30 years, Venezuela runs on almost no gasoline that they pump, no oil that they pump. They sell it all to, or had been selling it all to Russia, China, and
I knew that was true
India.
of Brazil. Brazil runs on a lot of ethanol and other renewables, but Venezuela too, eh?
Venezuela too, and the only real trick is, you know, from a car manufacturing standpoint, it's literally just a few dollars more per unit. It's not like you got to spend an extra, you know, $1,000 or $2,000 to run on ethanol, but you have to have stainless steel fuel lines, fuel injectors, and so forth because of the condensation and the rust.
Yeah,
But
it holds water, and so you have to make sure that lots of parts of the fuel system and the exhaust system don't corrode.
Exactly.
And
that's a relatively easy thing to
with a galvanized steel exhaust system. The
right.
exhaust system would have been rotten in 6 months to a year.
But to use the stainless steel now and everything else, I mean, it's a relatively easy fix, you know, because the whole point is sugarcane's a one-step process to convert to alcohol, where we use corn, which is a food product and feed product, right? And it's a two-stage. You got to convert the corn to sugar and then the sugar to alcohol. And it's an expensive, non-efficient way of doing ethanol, okay? But we pay half the farmers in the country not to grow any crops, you know, from federal dollars because we can overproduce what this country needs and, frankly, what we can even sell abroad. Honestly, we ought to pay those farmers along the southern half of the country to start producing sugarcane, build the refineries. Yeah, and then you've got a one-step process, and estimates that I've read gives us fuel along with our oil fields, not even counting the Venezuelan thing, but just ours and the shale oil in the Northwest and Canada, you know, and so forth and offshore. It's something like enough fuel for this country, even at present growth rates, for like the next 150 years. I mean, it literally takes like affordable fuel like off the table if you add that into it. And it's like, it's something I think the government's going to have to look at some point. You know, it's just a better, you can't have your crop, your best fertile soil blown away with the dust, right? I mean, that makes no sense. So, you know, I would tell them, get on it as fast as you can. And, you know, even though Venezuela had problems politically, that portion of their economics was solid. I mean, it was spot on, and we need to probably do the same thing, you know, so, but I think I'm excited. I'm pumped. I think the future is looking great for us. You know, they're bringing Dodge and Chrysler are bringing back some of their nameplates and full electric. Some are doing it with twin turbos. Okay, I've got to tell you, I've got an F-150 with an EcoBoost, and I know there's some negative and positive out there, but I'll tell you something, that thing runs like you just wouldn't believe every day. It doesn't have much computer-wise after, you know, 100 miles an hour, but getting there, that thing moves, and it hauls.
I got a guy that can. I got a guy that can take that governor right off of there for you.
I know. Well, actually, I bought the truck off my son. I helped him get a brand new one from Boykman Ford here in St. Louis a couple of years ago, and he was driving back from Tennessee going across Illinois, and he called me one Sunday night, and he goes, "Dad, something just happened to the truck." I said, "What?" He goes, "There was this big loud explosion." He goes, "All of a sudden, the thing was like it got shot out of a cannon, and everything." I started laughing. He goes, "What are you laughing about?" I said, "Well, you blew your your pipe right before the catalytic converter. I said that EcoBoost is so stopped up, restrictive wise. I said that just adding a catback, a reflash of the computer, and a fresh air intake kit provides 150 more horsepower on a stock motor. You know what I mean? It's like, so I said all of a sudden that exhaust was non-restrictive anymore, and you felt the real power that thing had. So
Turbos were always the most easily zooped up of all. I mean, in a conventional car, they used to have the tuning kits and the chips and everything, and people would go, "Oh, I got a chip," and they couldn't add more than 10 or 15 or 20 horsepower. Right. But if you modify just the electronics on a turbo car, you could add 100, 150 horsepower like that, because all you have to do is change what the wastegate does, and then you have more boost. Everywhere.
And for how long it stays open and shut, the power valve, makes all the difference in the world on that. And that's just like that's like your cam DNA, right? How much is that lift and duration on that cam you're putting into your car? It determines how long those valves are open and shut and so forth, and how efficiently they move the intake and the exhaust gases out. And that's where that's your heads are where you made all your power. A turbo boosted everything else, Yeah,
and of course it's all additive, but being able to change the turbo was huge. And so these days, everything being turbo, there's a lot more aspects out there for tuning, and I'm surprised that the manufacturers don't get more into it. I mean, they have from time to time. For instance, there was a factory stage 1 kit that was offered on the 2.0 EcoBoost from General Motors, which brought the engine from 250 to 290 horsepower and maintained all of the factory warranty.
Right. Good bump
all
in power.
All it was a different map sensor, I think different spark plugs, and a reflash of the computer.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they've
covered
always
in every GM dealership.
They've always had those kinds of things available. The majority of the public really didn't know about them unless it was a really popular model like a Corvette or a Mustang or something like that. Then everybody in the know knew about it. But right now, I think we might be knocking on the door of a new golden age in the auto industry. And, because if the fuel to make it happen is cheap, then there really isn't much to hold back the technology. The technology is kind of wide open at that point,
Let me hit on 2 factors, one positive, one negative, on the ethanol thing. Now, of course, the big negative, which is well known, it's the reason why people with a flex fuel car will almost only fill up once or twice with it before they stop doing that, is that even though the ethanol fuel is subsidized and it's a good bit cheaper than regular gasoline, which still has 5-10% ethanol anyway. Well, what's the max? I think 15.
I think you're right.
Yeah, E85, of course, gives its name. It has up to 85% ethanol. And the fact is, ethanol has less energy per gallon. So you can actually go to the EPA and see different EPA figures for flex fuel cars. It drops 25-30% fuel economy.
Right.
So unless the price is more than 30% less, and still you have the bother of having to go fill up more often.
Right.
And the other lesser known and more difficult to take advantage of advantage is you can make a heck of a lot more horsepower with an ethanol fueled car.
Yep. All the
From
racers are doing that instead of using avgas because they can dial up the timing, and it's such a cool spark sequence that you can advance like crazy.
And on a turbo, if you could, for instance, on that 2-liter Ecotec that came with 15 psi from the factory, and the stage 1 kit would give it as many as 25 psi.
Yeah.
And it switched you had to burn premium only at that point.
Right.
But if you were running ethanol in that, you could probably put 35, 40 psi in that thing without having to worry about detonation, because the ethanol is extremely resistant to detonation.
Yep.
In fact, Henry Ford wanted to use ethanol back in the 30s instead of lead, but lead was much cheaper.
Oh yeah. Well, and in his defense on that too, frankly, as compression grew into the 50s and so forth, you needed the lead really for the lubricant for the valves. You know what I mean? Because otherwise they would get too hot along the edges and they would wind up corroding. and you couldn't keep
Yeah.
your compression. You know what I mean?
Material
So
science, material science took care of that, but later on.
right.
So,
Well, hardened steel, hardened steel makes.
exactly.
Well, the funny thing is, and I found this out by accident because this was back in like the early 80s. I mean, like 80, 81. I found out that Amoco, that their formulation of their gasoline back when premium was 93 and your mid-grade was 91 and then the low side was 89, that if you mixed, because their premium never did have lead in it. It was been formulated like since back in the 50s, it never had lead. So if you went with 1/3 regular, okay, with leaded, and the other 2/3 with their premium, you actually, under the RM calculation, right, for octane, it came out to almost 96%.
Yeah, that would have been using no lead premium along with a small amount of regular leaded gas.
Right. And I did that on my cars that had 11-to-1 compression just to get them to run without knocking. You know what I mean? Without having to adjust the timing and stuff.
The original premium before the 70s did have lead in it, though. That was the primary way they raised the octane number.
Right. Yeah, so it was kind of an interesting thing. And I tell you what, I used it. It stopped the pinging in my engine completely. I was like going, damn, this works. I mean, it was like, wow. So
it'll boost the 93 octane up to 95 or 96.
Yeah.
All right, I think you guys will find this interesting.
Yep, give it to us.
So Toyota's venture arm backs, I don't know if it's Fly or FLAI, to automate dealership phone calls with AI. And
Ooh.
I don't know what you guys think about this, but if I was calling my dealer for some scheduled maintenance or something, and I mean, already I'm sure you sometimes get a robot, and my thoughts on an answering machine robot, but I'm not sure that AI is ready for this, and I think it would frustrate me. What are your thoughts?
I would have to say that if anybody answers a phone at a dealership service department, that can actually be a bonus, because even though I agree, of course, the old robotic systems that we're used to are horrible. We could probably go on TikTok and just find, streams of people just shouting at their phones going,
oh yeah,
0, representative, human, and then streams of expletives, from the older systems. Hopefully the AI systems will be better, but of course we know the biggest problem I've seen with a lot of dealership service departments is the service doesn't even answer the phone. You'll call the main switchboard number and say, yeah, I need service, and it'll go bring, 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 and then, hello, what would you like for sales? Press
right.
1 for wait a minute, I pressed 2 already. And so
either that or you get the thing where it's like, we're sorry, all representatives are busy right now. Please leave your name and number. We'll have someone call you back as fast as they're available, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, my concern is up front though, and it's going to vary between states, obviously, with what they require. But if I don't know that I'm talking with something that's computer generated and it's tracking my number and then, working it reverse backwards to figure out where I'm living, and so forth, and it's using it to generate data for marketing purposes and so forth, and I'm not aware of it, I'm going to be pissed. Okay. I'm going to be like, no, I didn't give you permission for that. Now, if it comes on, it says your call will be, monitored for, employee improvement and satisfaction and so forth, then that's your call to make. That's your call to say, okay, I want to stay on the line or I don't. And they ought to at least give you the option, if you don't mind, this being recorded, press this. If you want to wait for a live body, press this. That way, at least it's the client.
At the beginning. That's a good idea. Yeah.
That way, it keeps it on the up and up. It's on the level.
In fact, again, like you said, not knowing. I've seen some people that are working on AI agents that have personal communications with clients or customers.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing they do is say, hey, I'm a robot, but please don't hang up. We're trying our best.
Right.
And I'm a new AI robot. And after all, you can say bad words to me and I won't get mad. So, give me a shot for a few minutes. If you don't want to, and again, to your point, then they could add, and if you don't want to, if you can just hold on for one of my lazy human overlords.
Yeah, you can have some fun with it.
Who's probably probably playing doodle jump on their phone and won't answer anyway. But if you really hate robots, go ahead and hit 1 now, and we'll try to get you to a living, breathing, a sack of meat eventually, but that's probably not going to work out for you.
Yeah, the human-based life form that needs to take this call is out smoking a cigarette. I can see him right now.
You mean
We'll
a
page him
joint,
again and try to get him on the phone for you. You can
But when he does
definitely have
answer
some
the
fun with it,
phone, when he does answer the phone, he's going to be really impatient with you because he needs to go buy a huge bag of Cheetos.
That's right. I think it'd even be fun to sit there and say, you can opt if you like for me to disconnect you, transfer you to a few other departments so that you feel at home. We can get somebody on the phone for you right away. But no, the whole thing is that we all know that that's going to be used to refine and hone further AI and algorithms. I mean, that's all the information is used for.
Yep,
It's going to be taken, dissected, and parsed, and boom.
So that
Yeah.
So your personal information in the event of AI, which is being used when the return channel that is the human is actually being used for the model, it can't be actually touched by anyone. It's used for training, and so it goes into a mathematical vector database. So nobody can ever really go, well, this Rick guy, he lives in South St. Louis and he likes to eat Cheetos, so we'll send him some ads for Cheetos.
I mean, I don't care if it's true, but just the fact, I just want to make sure it's accurate.
Yes, yeah. All right.
I mean, I think that's
crunchy. Rick, puffed
and
or crunchy. That's the important thing. Puffed or crunchy.
That's right. Well, that's the one thing. Like right now, like if I have a need for, I mean, I just had my oven go on the fritz, okay, and it was a Maytag. Well, I wanted to find a Maytag authorized repair facility here in St. Louis, and I wanted to be able to talk with one of their techs. Okay, I know a little bit about wiring and this kind of thing. So, I called the place and I said, now it says in your ad online that you're an authorized Maytag specialist. Okay, so how many years have you been doing? Well, the gal doesn't know anything, right? I don't know, sir. I'm new here, right?
How would she know how many years?
Well, no, she wasn't. She was from the country. She spoke the King's English. Okay, it was all right. But the problem was that I said, look, I really need a couple of minutes with one of your techs. I've already replaced a couple of things. I replaced the new transistor board and everything else and so forth. It's still not working. It's not responding. It's mainly the LED panel, and I think it's the soft touch screen that was on the front of it. But I said, look, if he thinks he can fix it, I'll have you guys come out immediately. Okay, I'll pay the $180 fee and whatever the parts are and, and so forth to get the damn thing working. But if he tells me after I tell him what I've done that, I really can't offer you anything other than what you've done, then honestly, I don't want to spend almost $200 to have him come out and tell me that, right? I mean, if I'm not going to get anything out of it, then I'm not going to mess with it.
Speaking of the little transistor board.
Yeah,
I just got a toaster oven that has 3 knobs on it. It's got a knob you set the temperature. It's got a knob to set it, whether it's going to be toast or air fryer or whatever.
Right.
And it's got another knob that has a clock spring in it, and you turn it past 20, and then you set the time, and it goes.
Yep.
Not a piece of I can make, after the Chinese explode a nuclear bomb up in the atmosphere and get that, I will be able to make
it'll still work. Yeah.
The timer in my toaster oven broke, so now everything burns if I don't stare at it. And it's one of those old ones, unfortunately.
But you know what I told the person? She was smart enough, and at least I guess because they're monitoring the calls. I think the recording actually did say all calls are monitored for training purposes, blah, blah, blah. Fine, that's good enough. But she asked me, she goes, well, why did you call us? And I said, honestly, I find 3 or 4 places that I'm going to call, and they're in alphabetical order or top ranking on, social media and so forth for your placement. And whoever picks up the phone first is who I'm having a conversation with. I'm not falling for, please leave your name and number and we'll get somebody to call you back here in just a little bit. I'm not doing that. And so I may call 10, 15 places, but the first person that picks up, 9 times out of 10, I'm going with them. Why? Because a live body picked it up. And dealers have to, Dave Sinclair here in St. Louis is big on that. When you call in, it says, hi, this is, James Sinclair or whoever. Thanks for calling us. A live body is going to pick up in just a minute. Please hang on. And I'm going to tell you that is refreshing, today, right? And sure enough, a live body picks up the damn phone, but these dealers that rely on the AI to answer their phone, do all this stuff, They figure, well, I'm getting that message out. I'm going to get them to leave me their. No, you're not. You start looking at how many actually leave the info and don't. You're going to be shocked at what you find.
That's all that AI is capable of. That's a cheap AI, and you're right. That's not going to help them any.
No.
If the AI can actually interact, but we're seeing a lot of this stuff being overhyped and under delivering. I mean, I swear 20 years ago, I'd ask Siri to do something, and that little chick would get her little butt in gear and do it. And this time, I can tell Siri to do stuff, and she has every excuse. Like, call Rick Peters. I'm on the phone. I'm on Bluetooth. Call Rick Peters. You need to unlock your iPhone to do that. Really? So I'm supposed to pick up my phone while I'm doing, okay, I won't say the actual speed because that could be used against me in court. While I'm driving at a high rate of speed on the interstate, I'm going to pick up my phone. I'm going to type in my little 6 digits. It never used to do that before.
No. Well, as you know how it goes, the more high tech something becomes, the more troublesome it becomes, period. Okay.
For a long time. Yep.
But I remember from when I was a little kid back in the early 60s, my dad had a saying. If it had, and this is what he picked up in the military, if it has more than 2 moving parts and human beings that are involved, it's not if it's going to break, it's when it's going to break. So whether it's AI or whether it's something mechanical or whatever, the more advanced it gets, the more complicated it gets, the more parts there are, the more problems you have. It's inevitable.
There's some potential with the AI, especially I think the AI could be trained pretty well to handle triage. So the AI could be pretty good at saying, hello, I'm just a stupid robot, but please don't get mad at me yet. Did you need service or parts, or did you need a salesperson? And if you need a salesperson, is it in Toyota or is it in Nissan? They can handle some of that, and they can handle it quicker than a recording because they can interact more.
As long as it's responsive and it can, and the conversation can be back and forth there, and you can get across what you actually need it to do, and it does it, then, I think it can definitely be curtailed to a number of products and services, you know what I mean, to make them work more efficiently.
All right, I'm gonna bring up this next
What else you got for us? Yeah, get some stuff for us.
So Chinese automakers gain ground in Mexico and Canada, and why the U.S. is likely next. So obviously last week we talked about Trump and him welcoming Chinese automakers in Detroit, and we also, I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the Davos Forum in, Switzerland, right?
Right.
But Keir Starmer and also Andrew Carney from Canada, they're basically saying they want to be more friendly with China on trade and in other relations. So I think it makes sense that Chinese automakers are going to be doing well this year, to say the least. What do you guys think?
Well, I think one of the big things that they're starting to do is they're starting to put up factories in Mexico and Canada, which is what Trump invited the Chinese to do. He didn't invite them to just build cars in China and sell them here.
Right.
He invited them to do what the Japanese did back in the 80s. And build actual factories and hire Americans and build Chinese cars here. And that's what the Chinese are beginning to do in Mexico anyway. And I imagine Canada would be another one to do because, of course, then they're able to use whatever lesser tariffs and regulations are in Mexico and Canada. But once a majority of the vehicle is assembled in Mexico or Canada, then, I forgot what they changed the name of NAFTA when Mr. President renegotiated it, but and that would kick in mostly, and so they would have an easier time sending a car from Mexico or Canada to the United States rather than directly from China, of course. So it's a good strategy.
Well, economically, it makes all the sense in the world. And Walter, honestly, unless you've read a lot of history, you're too young to have lived through this. Okay, but like what Withen was saying, back in the early '80s, I mean, America could hardly sell a car into Japan. Okay, I mean, that was like almost impossible, all right? But yet we had them shipping over tanker after tanker after tanker, of automobiles. None of them built here, no U.S. work, no U.S. steel, no any of it, right? And so, I mean, that is a completely warped, lopsided, non-realistic formula, to make something work. That's just, it's crazy. It's insanity.
So people think, well, what's the big deal? I mean, if Japan can make or China can make cars more cheaply than us and they're good quality, why shouldn't we buy them? Because everyone would profit. But going back to that little hobby that your father had back in the 40s, we used to know it, but people forget it now.
Yep.
The only reason that we're not all speaking German, except for those of us who, ended up, is because the U.S. auto industry started making bombers,
Yep.
fighters,
Jeeps,
Jeeps,
everything.
trucks, deuce and a halves, artillery pieces, rifles, bullets. I mean, Chrysler manufactured something like 380 million rounds of ammunition
Right.
during the early 40s out of the same factories, that they used to make Chrysler Airflows or Sotos or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Canada is wanting to be a little contrary right now and saying, and I think it's just sable rattling. We want to do business with China. Well, really, that's not economically sound. That's not a solution for them because of how far the goods have to be shipped, the time delays involved, and so forth. It's not an efficient model.
All right. So GM sees upside for 2026 profits amid tariffs and resilient U.S. market. This is from Automotive News. And then
They had a record year last year. It turns out that when the dust all settled, they finished ahead of a target, and and so forth. And frankly, they revamped a couple of their brands over the last 18 months, and it made a difference in their sales. That midsize, I forget the name, Traverse, and there's another one that they remodeled them and so forth, and they made them look much better.
Oh yeah, the Enclave, the Traverse, and the Acadia.
Yeah, and so by redoing them and making them more aesthetically pleasing, it increased their sales. And they did wind up, I don't know their profitability. I haven't seen the details on, their profitability, but, gross sales were up. It'll be interesting to see if that equated bottom line into more net dollars, because they spend an awful lot of money in advertising and market and rebates and incentives to be able to drive that market as well.
Does it say how well their EVs did? Because Chevrolet has a lot of EV models. I mean,
yeah, they do.
People think about Ford because Ford's kind of out there, but Ford only has the Mustang, Mach-E, and of course the Lightning. General Motors has, just Chevrolet. It has the Equinox EV, the Blazer EV, the Silverado EV. It's got the Bolt's coming back too, so it's got the market covered from top to tail.
It'll be interesting to see if their numbers remain the same or go up this year, which they may not. With that heavy an EV, as we talked about with fuel prices coming down, I just think there's going to be less demand for those. And what'll happen is for those
models, but they have a lot. They have a lot of ICE motors too. They have a lot of ICE. What they don't have is I don't think Chevrolet has any hybrid at all.
I don't think none's ringing my bell. It's either ICE or electric.
Unless you count the Corvette E-Ray, unless you count the Corvette E-Ray.
Right.
I'm not sure that's in the traditional hybrid market list there.
Well, I just heard an ad today on the radio. Right now, Pudman Ford out here in St. Charles. Right now, they currently have $9,000 off a brand new Ford Bronco 2. Okay, the little Bronco, right? And it's like, and that's a hot model.
Is it the Bronco or the Bronco Sport?
No, I just said Bronco models. That's all they generically refer to it as.
So that could be the Broncos that are based off of the Ford Ranger platform, or that could be the Bronco Sports, which are based off of the Escape platform.
Right,
or
and then
both.
The big one that blew my mind though is they got $13,000 off on Escape. I'm like, wait a minute. That vehicle ain't got that high an MSRP. You got 13 grand.
They got some money on that from the factory or something.
You ain't lying. So they must be getting ready to phase that out or something. You know what I mean? Right?
We did a previous episode, and the Ford Escape, very surprisingly, has been discontinued. So 2006 is going to be an abbreviated model year, and then it's gone.
Wow. Yeah. So it's a good buy. Right now, you get 13 grand off a brand new one.
Escape. Goodbye.
That's not a bad deal. For what you're getting for your money. So.
Well, that remind me of this thing that one of the salesmen I used to hang out with used to say. The customer would ask him, is this a good buy? And the guy said, well, if you don't take it at that price, goodbye.
That's it. You really wanted a goodbye when you came in, didn't you? Okay, goodbye.
All right, so I thought these headlines were funny because I read them one after the other. So GMC's upside for 2026 profits, and the next GM says Oshawa's third shift ends January 30th as planned, putting about 700 out of work. So I
Yeah.
wanted
There
to
you
hear
go.
your guys' perspectives on.
There's always shifts.
Right.
So I forgot what Oshawa's factory builds. That's Canada, right? Is that a full size or an S? Not an S.
I think they have one of their pickup
Colorado.
plants up there.
Here, I'll look it up.
One of their, so that's, yeah, it looks like one of their pickup plants. Well, the thing is, they build Silverados everywhere.
Oh
I
yeah.
think there's a guy building Silverados right now in my spare bedroom, I swear. I mean, they build them in Texas, they build them in Detroit, they build them in Mexico, they build them in Canada. I guess not in Canada anymore.
Well, and the biggest expense any manufacturer or any company always has is payroll, right? So, if you're going to look to trim something, you cut 700 people's wages at, close to 100 grand each out of there. You can make that up with other shifts, and other plants and so forth. And if you don't have a solid demand for the same or increased growth, that's what you have to do.
It's hard to say. It is a little surprising if that's a full size Silverado plant that they're doing that in. And of course, it would be Silverado.
Well, but Canada's economy though is not running on all cylinders right now. They're not in a recession, but I got a friend of mine up there. She was running a Ford store about a year and a half ago, and they were doing bi-monthly lease payments on F-250 and 350 trucks at over $1,000 every 2 weeks on a payment. And I'm like going, holy crap. It's like, good luck selling that to the public. I got to pay how much?
Yeah.
I mean, that was insane. It's like, oh my God.
That sounds like someone screwed up a punchline. The thing is, I want a $350 payment. I don't have any money down. Oh, we got you covered. So that'll be $350 a month bi-weekly for 84 months.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy.
We got you covered. $350 a month, no problem.
What
All
else you got on the headlines there, Walter?
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Thieves got 20 vehicles from dealerships with key fob sleight of hand, police say.
Oh, we've seen this trick before.
So yeah, there were a couple GMC Sierras missing from a dealership in Connecticut, and I guess they found them, and they've gotten some suspects under arrest. But I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I'm assuming, is this similar to the problem that was going on with Hyundais and Kias before?
No.
So no, they were just poorly built and they were easy to steal.
Yeah. General Motors had a big problem with automotive theft. Oh, I mean, back when Louis Chevrolet drove that first, Chevrolet off the line, he went in for a beer and someone stole it behind his back. So in the 90s, they made a new key that had a little resistor in it, and the ignition computer or whatever had to recognize that exact resistor. Otherwise, it didn't matter if your key went in and turned, or if you put a screwdriver in there and twisted. And so that was the first type of electronic countermeasures. Well, it wasn't just Chevrolet, it was all of General Motors, actually. I'm sure it was big on Cadillacs. I remember the gold-plated little key, and then it had the little resistor, the little chip in it. Except it wasn't actually a chip, it was just a resistor because, it was the 90s, maybe the 80s, I don't remember. So we've had those types of keys that have computer encryption in them for quite a while. Obviously, anything that has the hands-free key thing that goes in your pocket and you just walk up to the car and it recognizes you, opens you open the door and just push the button and it goes automatically. That's got encryption in it. If anybody else walks up with a different key from a different car and tries it, the handle doesn't do anything. But Hyundai and Kia had two levels of cars. The base models came with a regular old key, but it did not have as much as a resistor in it. It was just a key. And so people could mechanically break into the car, mechanically break into the ignition, and steal them real easily.
Yeah.
Now, if you had a Hyundai or a Kia that had the hands-free keyless thing, the little doodad, those weren't getting stolen because they had the computer security.
Oh, interesting. I thought
What's
that it was
happening
like
here? Yeah, go ahead.
I thought that it was a tech issue. I didn't realize it was so simple.
Well, it is a tech issue. They didn't put enough tech in the car.
Right. It was an absence of tech that caused the problem. Thieves found that out. Let me tell you, a thief and a shady salesperson, are always going to be looking like water for the path of least resistance. If they find a crack in that armor, they're exploiting it, and they're going to be ruthless about it. Okay, they don't care. You know, the technology that does that is relatively rudimentary today. I mean, it's not even high tech to speak of anymore. So and the fact that you had a major car manufacturer out there or two that was making vehicles without that requirement was almost criminal. I mean, it was negligent on its best day. Okay, because
it was obviously I wouldn't call it a fault, but it was obviously an oversight. I think the lawyers that sued them were overstepping their bounds when they're saying, well, these should have had it, because there's
I agree. A manufacturer doesn't have to put them in there. Yeah.
There's federal motor vehicle safety standards, and there's there's all kind of these laws which manufacturers have to read, books thicker than the Library of Congress and meet up to every part. And an encrypted key was not in there, so they didn't put it in there.
Well, and the hell of it is, that's probably $20 a car. I mean, it wasn't like you were asking to put another 2 G's into it, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And it was like,
heck, I'd have to differ. I'd have to say it's probably more like $1.50 a car.
Yeah,
amazing.
I mean, when you're talking at scale or whatever, I mean,
it could have prevented a lot of damages. Yeah. So I found out how these 20 vehicles were stolen. Apparently, there was an organized ring, and they were just swapping out the keys really quickly. So, I guess they do a test drive and then swap out the keys or clone them.
Because you could buy a used little key fob, or you could probably buy a fake over online from China, who will probably be making those fake key fobs in Mexico now.
Yeah, and you swap them out as long as you got the stock number and so forth. Now the newer,
take the ring off and put the ring back on.
The newer keyboards and security systems also read that chip coming back in.
Oh,
so in other words, you can't get away with putting a shell back on there, because it's going to detect that it's not reading the chip in it either.
Oh, okay. Nice. I didn't know about that. That's
but that's why some of these key systems are costing $100,000 a dealer. I mean, it's like they're an incredibly expensive feature. When I got out of running the last Hyundai store I ran in St. Louis, we had put in a key system because at that time the keys had the chips in them, and to get another key cut and have the chip programmed for the car, if the customer lost one, they were running about $100 a key. Okay, well, all of a sudden you have 20 keys messing up in a month. You got $2,000 expenditure. That's $25,000 a year. That's a little bit of money, right? So I had a system. It was very simplistic, but every key got a plastic knob on it that had a lock insert. Okay, and you had the soda machine style round key, right, to be able to unlock the thing and so forth. Well, here was the deal. You had your key, and you had two of them. You had one for the key and you had one for the license plate, which worked on the same mechanism. Okay. So in order for you to get out your key for the test drive and the license plate, you had 2 soda machine keys, right? So you got them out and so forth. Somebody came up and said, hey, with them, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what happened to my other key, but I got to take this customer on test drive. Let me get your key and I'll find mine and I'll give it back. No. Because let me tell you what happened. You never got that key back. And then when you needed one for a test drive, you didn't have your 2 keys, right, to make it work. Well, I told everybody, it's like, look, this is the way it works here. You lose the key, the round key, okay? And I'm going to give you're going to start off on strike 2. Okay, you already got 2 strikes against you. It's going to cost you $100 for another round key. But if we have any keys missing or come up missing because of a round key that you lose, you're fired, because that meant that somebody was actively trying to steal. Somebody was actively trying to work the system in order to get the keys to a car that had a computer chip that would work, start the vehicle, and be able to take off with it. Okay. So that's what I had to do. And everybody's like, well, why are you being such a jerk? Right. And it was a word that began with a D and rhymes with the rest of my name, and and so forth, right? And let me tell you, I was just like, look, I have zero tolerance. I'm sorry, but if the owner comes up to me and asks me for my key, and I told him the same thing, you're not getting it. I'll get you 2. You lose them, you're paying, right? It's your money. You're gonna abide by the same rules. But let me tell you something. For a year and a half, I think we only had like 2 keys in a year and a half that were ever a problem.
The old
I
key
mean,
switcheroo, that's an old trick that thieves have played at dealerships for
Oh, yeah.
years. I mean,
Yeah, I can't believe that was
you-
working.
they would go and they would go to a grocery store that had a guy that made keys and tell them, "Oh, I need a Chrysler key.
Yep.
Oh, where's your key? Oh, I don't have it, but just cut it, 13579 or whatever."
Yeah, here's the
Didn't
code.
matter because you
Right.
weren't going to you weren't going to use the key. You were just going to have it you were just going to swap it for the key on his fob, and then you come back the next day and that New Yorker with the 440 is yours because boom.
It's gone. It's at the chop shop. It's already been cut up overnight. You ain't finding that one. That's gone. Okay.
Well, or it's burned to a crisp in New Orleans East behind the bayous.
That could be too. That could be too.
We have 2 more here, and then we can get out.
Yep.
So Stellantis' fall, a decade-long sales drop in Canada to 6% market share from 15.4%.
There you go. Like I said, the
That
economy up
includes-
there is not as good.
And that includes Fargo.
But see, that's what's happening right now. China's out there pissing in their ear. Oh, we'll do this with your country. We'll bring this amount of money in. We'll do this. Well, they're hurting, so they're willing to entertain that kind of crap. Where normally they wouldn't, but
Well,
their
well,
economy's tough.
let me put you a little bit back on track. That's market share. In other words, the sales loss might be much worse, but they went from 15-something% market share to 6%. So
Right.
even if sales dropped, they hit the floor and went boom, and a bunch of dust came.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a huge drop in market share. What was the period on that, Walter? That wasn't just 1 year, I hope.
I think it was
It's in
last
10
year,
years.
wasn't it?
It was in 10 years.
Yeah,
Oh,
10
10
years.
years. Okay.
But
Okay.
that's bad
Still, it's bad. It's the
No, for 10
trajectory
years, that's
is
bad.
terrible. Yeah.
For
Yep.
1 year. That would have been like I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
apocalypse.
If somebody had gone out and torched like 85 Dodge dealerships or something, that's what that would have taken for 1 year. Yeah, but 15% to 6% market share is horrible.
Yeah, I feel like when I was a kid, I don't know if they were owned by Stellantis back then, but I just feel like Chrysler, etc. They were, I don't know, they just didn't seem as struggling. It seems really bad.
When you were a kid, they were owned by a different entity every year, basically.
Okay,
Yeah, I was going to say they went through ownership pretty rapidly there for a while.
yeah, that doesn't seem like a good strategy.
Daimler
like
and the rest of, I mean, it was like, they
was
were
like-
going through it pretty quick.
The Carfax on Chrysler would have been like the Carfax on a Dodge Journey. It's like, is this a one-owner car? Well, this week.
It was for this period of time. Okay.
Yeah.
It was like,
So, Rick, why don't you give us one of your sale tips of the week?
well, I gave you the master list, and I'm glad you revised the last one. I think it's more appropriate. But you can't deny that it didn't get people's attention when I would bring it up. Okay. It'd be like, did he just say what I thought? Anyway, so it was, these are some simple truths that have been around the car industry and sales industry as a whole for decades. Okay. And nothing that I've put forth here is, with the exception of one, and I'm going to give you that one right now, is mine. All these are, there's quotes in here from Henry Ford and from Albert Einstein and W.L. Bateman and a few others, okay, and so forth. But
Wasn't the
about
one from
35 years, what?
Wasn't the famous one from Einstein? My God, my hair is unmanageable today.
It should have been.
I think that was
Okay.
the Einstein.
It should have been. Actually, Bateman, I think, prompted Einstein, because Bateman was back in the mid 1800s, but Bateman's quote, and it's in here, is if you keep doing the same thing you've always done, you're going to keep getting the same thing you've always gotten.
Oh, I didn't
Later,
know that was that
Einstein,
old.
yeah, Einstein basically, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome or result is insanity, right? Okay.
The definition of insanity.
That's it.
Yeah.
So mine that I'm going to put out there today is the word in the acronym POWER. Persistence outweighs every resistance. In sales, if you are going to give up and let the customer dictate to you the terms, conditions, everything and so forth, and you can't take control of that sales process, you're going to lose. Okay. You're going to lose. I used to teach my sales guys, what's stronger, water or granite? Well, everybody always says granite. I said, if you let water drip on granite long enough, it'll tear it to pieces. Okay. It's the persistency that makes the difference. So the main thing is to stay on point, to stay on the 10-step road to the sale, follow it completely, consistently, every time, and more times than not, you'll come out, okay, on the upside of that, being able to sell that unit to that customer. and making a lifelong friend. And that's what it's all about, you know? So one last thing I used to teach my sales guys, I mean, back in the day and with them, you were in it at the same time I was at that point. I mean, if you were here from Mars and you didn't know nothing and you got a job in the car business and you were sending back a message to the mom and dad back on planet Mars and said, hey, I got this great job in the car business. I talked to 10 people and I make one sale. Okay, I got about a 10% closing ratio and so forth. And here's the best part. I'll probably never get a referral out of them, and they won't remember me in 2 or 3 years when it's ready for them to buy again and so forth. So every month I'm starting off from zilch, and this is the job I've chosen. And it's just like, how many people in retrospect would look at those scenarios and say, hey, that's a great field to be in. Okay. You know, so unless you changed and didn't just be, as we all knew, the majority of salespeople in the industry, which were nothing but sitting around waiting for the next up to walk in the door. If you didn't do something as a paradigm change to shuffle that deck and make that work into your favor and provide better quality service and salesmanship to that customer, well, that was pretty much your life. You know, maybe in 2 or 3 years, you might be selling 12 cars a month or 13. And maybe 10 years after that, you might be selling 15, you know, but it was a slow or no growth scenario.
And I remember
these truths are designed to help you. That's all it is.
It was called a numbers game.
That's it, or lack thereof.
And the salespeople that didn't really make it took that to mean, well, I just got to talk to enough people and I'll sell some cars. But what the smart, you know, sharp salespeople knew is that the numbers game, you can adjust the numbers anywhere. I mean, sure, if the equation is X equals 1, well, then you're only going to sell one car, or X equals 1 over 10. That means, well, you got to talk to 10 people. But the sales equation has many more, components, many more variables, many more exponents, even many more constants.
Yeah.
I mean, so first of all, the number of people you talk to, you can vary that different ways. Staying longer hours, catching more ups. That's the work. You know, that's the way if somebody's just going to plod through but at least they're working more. But another way is to change that coefficient so that instead of 1 out of 10, maybe you do 1 out of 9. You do 1 out of 8. You know, sharpen your tools. You find better ways to hit it. Then another thing is to bring in more people per hour. You start doing things which attracts appointments directly to you, so you don't have to worry about foot traffic. And so, you know, it's a numbers game, can be more than one thing.
No, it's good or bad. It's good or bad. It's a numbers one way or the other, you know. And, you know, I started in St. Louis. It used to be taboo to give any information over the phone. And, you know, we used to run a little ad in the newspaper this big, $1,000 down on an Accord, you got a $199 a month payment or $159 a month on a Civic. Okay, that was the lease deal, right, for 24 months. Well, we would get 35 to 45 sales calls a day at the store, but you see 10 people come in. And I'm like, well, somebody's getting lied to somewhere, okay, because the amount of calls coming in is not equating with nobody telling them anything over the phone to the amount of people walking in the door, right? So I began to explore what I could and couldn't say on the phone and still be able to get an appointment out without pigeonholing me in the way of money, trade value, this kind of thing, and so forth. Had I had Advanta-STAR at that time, not only could I have increased my phone appointment settings, which I took up to I was doing about 35, 40% appointment ratio for calls versus appointments, it's still damn good. Okay. I mean,
that's phenomenal.
Those ratios. Had I had Advanta-STAR to be able to point out, because, you know, I would get information from the driver. What are you getting? A van, a car? Are you getting a truck? I need a van for the wife and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're getting that information, right? That's your fact finding and needs assessment and so forth. And then you can point out some of your attributes over the phone, but verbally hearing them versus seeing them is two different animals, right? Because your concept of what I tell you over the phone might be what I want you to have in your mind, and maybe it's not. Maybe you're taking it a completely different way, right? But if I had the ability to run a comparison on Advanta-STAR and be able to send that to the client and point out those things, highlight, check mark some things and so forth, what we talked about, now all of a sudden my appointment ratio setting is probably going to be more like 50% or 60% of the time. Well, that makes all the difference in the world. Okay. That makes all the difference in the world on your conversion rate. So the thing is that Advanta-STAR, I don't care how high tech things get. I don't care what about the algorithms. I don't care about any of the software programs, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't make any difference. Basics are still basics. They're still needed. In order for a customer to feel comfortable in making a decision, you have to make sure that you're solving solutions for them. And one of the ways you do that is by presenting them with hard, cold facts and how this product that you have in this category beats the other things that they're looking at elsewhere. And that's the idea behind it. So, like I said, I wish I would have had it when I was in sales. I ain't gonna lie. I would have used it like crazy.
Yeah. Great point. I mean, if a guy asks you, well, what's the money factor? What's the residual? How much down do I have to put to get to that 199? You go, well, of course you've got the usual. The finance director can go over that specifically with you. It'll depend on a lot of things like, which county you're on, what the sales tax is,
right?
And how many miles you're going to put on it. And then that was it. And that sounded a little bit. But then you go on and go, well, the Honda Accord has standard front and rear disc brakes, and they're vented to help dissipate heat. So, your brakes don't fade, and you have shorter stops. Four-wheel discs also improve directional control in the poor weather, especially with anti-lock brakes, which can make you stop shorter.
Yep.
And then you go, well, this car stops at 120 feet from 60 miles an hour, according to Motor Trend. You keep and you get their minds not only completely off of what the money factor is, what the residual is, that $199, yeah, that's with 10 miles a month or whatever. They're totally off of that, and they're more interested in the car, and the value in that car is built up. So when they find out that after they talk about the real stuff and they're going to drive more than 10 miles a week and all this other stuff.
No, I agree.
Like
you go to a luxury brand, you go to a luxury brand, and they're doing 5,000, 7,000 miles a year leases, because a lot of those people that buy a $150,000, $200,000 automobile, that's not their daily driver, right? That's their weekend, that's their vacation, that's their fun car.
They tried to put me in a 6,000 mile a year lease on my Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio.
There you go.
I said, I'm going to do more than 6,000 miles a year going over 150.
That's right.
So, come on, guys.
But that makes all the difference. And the old sales adage, another point we'll make for another day, but when value exceeds price, friends buy. Well, how do you build value? You're never going to build value in dropping the price, okay? Because anything that's worth value doesn't come at a discount, right?
Nope.
I mean, that's just it. So how are you going to hold more gross? How are you going to hold your value? How are you going to prove that your vehicle is worth more than the competition, and so forth? And Walter, you don't know this, but back when I was in sales, I had subscriptions to every car magazine there was. I used to watch Motor Week on PBS every freaking week, right? I would videotape it. I did my own spreadsheets. So I would do my comparisons. I was doing what Advanta-STAR did on every topic of a car, and I was handwriting them out and putting them onto spreadsheets and having them in a clear sleeve and a binder. And when a customer sat down, I had an entire binder for Accords, one for Civics, and I had each one, and I would set them down, and I would clip the article in full color, put it in the sleeves, then put the comparisons in there. I'd put everything that was in there. And while I was going to get their car appraised in the process, I would leave them with that notebook and the notebook of all of the thank you letters and recommendations I got from customers. And I would have that as for them, instead of them plotting, trying to figure out how they're going to work a price scheme, between the two of them. Oh, we got to go to my aunt's house. We got to leave early, all this kind of shit, right? You would hit them with this stuff and let them sink their teeth into value. Nothing but value. Nothing to do with price whatsoever, right?
Yeah. So
now it's the thing when you start working numbers, big difference. And your closing ratios go through the roof. So that's why I immediately, when I first met with him and Bob Hanley, I was like, man, I'm excited. I'm pumped. But so much of the time, the dealerships and see, like in St. Louis, I'm sure it's the same thing down in New Orleans. You're down to like 7 families now that own like 90% of all the franchises, okay, in the bi-state area. Offenburg, Bommarito, Fuse, Suntrip, Sinclair. They own all the dealers, right?
Not
So for
quite as
them,
bad, but we definitely have the groups, the Bensons, the Premiers, and all that.
there you go. And the only thing they're worried about, like not Elko, but Weber Chevrolet. They got 3 locations and a Ford store in the bi-state area, right, in the metro area. The only thing they worry about, now Elko's the biggest single point, but Weber's the biggest overall franchise-wise, okay? They sell more units. They only give 2 shits about the check that the manufacturer writes them because of their volume,
Yep.
okay? Now the largest Buick GMC dealer in the country is Laura Buick over in Collinsville, Illinois, right across the river. They're the largest in the country. They bought out another facility, and their facility now with them, you'd be amazed, is over a quarter of a mile by a quarter of a mile in size. I mean, on one corner, they've got over 1,500, 1,800 vehicles on the ground. You know what I mean? You want a truck, you want a GMC, Sierra, and you want that, they got it sitting there. They probably got 50 of that color and that option ready to go, right? And the deal is they move volume. And the only thing they care about is that $250,000 to $500,000 check they receive a month from the manufacturer purely on volume. They don't care. They don't care if their salespeople make any money. They don't. I mean, they don't care, because honestly, if that person doesn't want to play the game, they got 30 other applicants just waiting. You know what I mean, to come on board, right? And they'll get them to not make any money.
Even in those cases,
even
in those cases, Advanta-STAR can help because
agreed.
It costs money for. I saw a guy on a Facebook dealership group going, "You got to treat your customer right. It costs your dealership $10 to $50 per customer to get them in the door." And I'm going, "Are you selling Hudsons or Studebaker?"
Yeah, it's more like 600 to 800 according to the NADA. It's like, my God, man.
I said, but yeah, I mean, that it's money walking in your door, and then it's money walking out of your door.
Yep.
And so 2 things. You should close a higher percentage of them if you can.
Yep.
And building value will help you do that. And the second thing being that it costs so much less to have someone that is happy with how you did business with them, believe they bought a good value, because
Absolutely.
that person comes back, and then that guy costs you, well, a whole lot less than, probably not quite as less as the $10 or $50 that guy who was smoking something back in the back of the parts department.
Yep.
But a good bit less than the $600 to $800 that is the true price tag on any person that walks in the dealership.
That's why organic referrals are worth so much. I mean, back in the late 90s when I ran that Honda store, dealers were doing $25 and $50 referral fees. I was paying $100. And it was like, because the whole thing was, I tell the customer, whether you know it or not, 2 people every month that get a car. Somebody you work with, go to church with, family, whatever, new, used. I said, I'm not asking you to get in the car business, but the next time you hear anybody say something, "Oh, my car wouldn't start this morning," or "The wife's mad, she wants a new car," whatever. You refer them to us. If we sell them, you get $100. You do that twice in a month and you don't have a car payment, Mr. Customer. Yep. Okay? You know what I mean? Let me tell you, that's worth its weight in gold. I just didn't, I paid $200 instead of $600 to $800.
Hold on. Asterisk. Bird dogs are not legal in every state. Check your local laws to find out.
Agreed. No. I wholeheartedly agree. In states where it's allowed, okay, and so forth. Agreed. And I'm not asking anybody to ever do anything that isn't 100% lawful in their state.
That's just the asterisk, though, because
But
it's legal in Missouri. It's legal in Louisiana. It's legal in a lot of different states. Actually,
but that's where the key is. I mean, the referral from a close personal friend is the best advertisement you can ever have, hands down. I don't care what you spend. Yep. Okay, it's the best there is. And if you're not getting that, you're hurting yourself.
Or you can do both.
Agreed. So, but I'm just saying, if you got a happy, satisfied customer, it's insanity not to capitalize on that. Okay, and so forth.
It's also so important. I mean, we can go another hour, but these salesmen are terrified to follow up after a sale.
They are.
That's where.
Well, you know why though? With them, it's because they didn't do the 10-step properly to start with. They never built the value and build a relationship with that customer. So, what right do they have to ask? Right at the end, if they're
terrified of buyer's remorse, because you're right.
Exactly.
They didn't build the value and do all the steps.
Exactly. But that's what happens, and that's why. I mean, I used to get rid of people that frankly couldn't talk to people. If they were scared and timid, I was like, look, you're selling a product here that's, had billions of dollars poured into it over the years and decades, okay, in research and development and everything else. You're doing everything 100% legally, ethically, professionally, and so forth. If you don't have the ability to stand up on your hind legs and stand up straight,
Yeah.
that's on you.
And it costs more than your father paid for his house.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's like, I can't afford to have you working with a customer walking in the door that I am spending $600 to $800 on. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Because frankly, you're not going to make it up to me. If you burn through 10 customers and I burn through $6,000 to $8,000 and you haven't sold a car.
Oh yeah.
With all due respect, why do I need you?
No, it's costing me money. So one question, and then we're going to go to Walter's favorite little game show. What was the first car you bought that cost more than your first house? Because just like me, you're old enough where you've probably bought a car that cost more than your first house by now, or have you?
No, I actually haven't. The house is, well, that's partly though too, because I like to tinker with older stuff and that kind of thing, and I know the depreciation, you know what I mean, in a brand new one. You know what I'm saying? So the only one that came close was a Mercury Villager minivan when I was working with Lincoln. I leased that, and that was sticker price pretty close to my first home that I had. Yes, that was close. But after that, it's like, no, I buy them 2 years old for a reason. I don't want the depreciation. I'm not taking the depreciation. Somebody else can.
That's a big one.
Are you sure you want to stay for the game? It's up to you.
Yeah, we should stay.
What's the game?
Rick's going to love this game.
Guess the list value.
Okay.
And like the Price is Right for hoopties.
Yes, yeah. So I went on Craigslist and I found people selling their used cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I found some of the funnier ones, and you two have to tell me what you think the list value is. I'll give you a little bit of a description of that they wrote. And Dad, you're going to recognize these cars, but I doubt you will remember the cost. So
yeah. Oh, so Rick, is it called a hoopty up there in Missouri?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, good.
Hoopty, POS, you name it. We've got all the names.
When y'all drink soft drinks, you call them like pop or something crazy like that.
All right, so guess the list value. Here we go. So it's a 1987 Pontiac Fiero, and he says 4-cylinder Iron Duke was running when parked 2 years ago.
If it was, it wouldn't have been parked. All right, so this is what they're asking, not what they're worth. This is what the customer's asking, right?
They're asking, yep.
The price in the ad.
All right, I'm gonna say $2,900.
All right,
that's a mid-engine. That's a Ferrari killer, man. I mean, this guy, he kept it after it stopped running, or after he parked it, and he doesn't know whether it runs anymore or not, or whatever it was. That's got to be $3,500.
Yeah, drum roll. $1,350 actually. Dang.
Oh.
So he knows.
He was somewhat realistic. Anyway.
He knows it doesn't run, but he doesn't want to mention it.
Actually, that's
so he got the estimate. He got the estimate of what it was going to be to actually fix it, and then he adjusted.
Or to tow it away. We're gonna charge you $800 to tow that thing away.
All right, here we go. We got a 2006 E450 Super Duty diesel van, and it.
Oh my God!
It's been used as an ambulance in the past, so it's good to put wheel lift and fifth wheel on center. Money maker. Runs and drives really well, and everything works. If you're serious, only give me a call.
His sister looks like a horse, and he's saying she's got a great personality. I don't know.
Let me go first this time. Let me try 6,500.
Does he have miles on there?
Nope. Wait. 207,000 miles is what it's.
Well, that's not bad for a diesel, and with him, you said how much?
I'm going to go 6,500.
Man, I'm going to say 42.
All right. 3,900. Dang, Rick.
That's pretty close.
2-0.
I was pretty close on that one.
That's
I read a lot of Facebook Marketplace ads.
All right. We got the original 1952 MGTD. An authentic, great running 1952 MGTD. A fun driving car that stands out with it being original in nice, unrestored condition. The mechanics have been gone through and is good and sound. This is a car we drive.
Oh, cool. You need to go first on this one since you beat me twice.
This is in St. Charles?
Yeah, it's
Missouri?
in St. Charles. You want to check it out?
He's going to go buy it now.
No, I'm going to say...
You can put a Mercury engine in it.
Yeah, that person seems awfully proud of that vehicle in the description. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 11.5.
Okay, I was going to say 12,800.
Here we go. 15K, 15,300.
Jeez Louise. Like I
Yeah.
said, he sounded proud. I didn't realize he was that stupid though, but that's okay.
And look, if it drives really well, I mean, it'll have an electrical fire 10 minutes after
Oh, yeah.
after the thing.
Yeah,
the
British
title's
Leyland,
been
for God's
signed.
sakes. Lucas Electronics. I mean, that's just an accident waiting to happen.
This is a
Yeah,
British car.
the Prince of Darkness.
This is a British made car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. We got a perfect snowplow truck. It says, note, this truck has never had a plow attached to it before.
Yeah, right.
Never plowed any snow, has never had a snowplow attached before.
See, that's the best of both worlds. So you know it can handle a snowplow, but it hasn't been ragged out
Yeah,
plowing
never
snow.
done it. And
Does it say 2-wheel or 4-wheel drive?
No, but it's 90,000 miles. That's pretty low.
What year?
It looks like it's, what is that, like a,
78 maybe and 80. I don't know.
It's a square body. That's gonna be closer to like 89, I think. Doesn't have the year on it. That's too bad.
nope, yeah. But 90,000 miles, that's pretty low.
And it doesn't say what engine or what transmission or anything, huh?
No.
Well, it says it could push a snowplow, so I'm thinking, no, actually the old 300 straight 6 would run a snowplow.
Yeah, it's got good low end torque. Okay, I'll go first. I'll say 7,800.
This time I'm actually going to surprise you. I think closer to $6,000 or $5,000. 5,500. I'll split the difference.
And, ooh, almost 9 grand. 89.50. What did you say, Rick?
78.
Okay, dang.
He's closer.
Yep. All right, we got a party bus. 121,000 miles.
Now that'd be worth a lot more money down by me than up there.
Oh, for
Is-
sure, yeah.
Is that a Freightliner?
It says you've got a great project starter, a bus with a reliable Cummins ISB engine and Allison transmission, perfect for a DIY party bus conversion. And I believe he said he started converting it into a party bus and he just got, I don't know if he ran out of money or he got bored or what. So I think there's benches in there or something.
He's in over his head as far as how to finish it, is what it is.
He got his
And-
5th DUI is what happened.
How many miles?
121,000.
That's not
And what
bad.
year? Does it say the year?
No, it does not.
Looks pretty new. I'd say that's in the 2000s somewhere.
I think you're right. 15.
That sounds about right.
I'm gonna say 12.
That's what I was thinking as well. Here we go.
I think I'm high.
5,000.
Oh my gosh.
He really, yeah, he's gotta pay that lawyer for that DUI right away. Yeah, that lawyer's saying he wants a retainer now.
Jeez Louise.
The money in my hand.
All right. And I don't know if you can see this photo, but 1965.
GTO?
Yep, GTO. It's a project car, very rusty, 4-speed with air, good frame. What's in the picture is all I have. Has title, and I don't know if you can tell from the picture, but it has no front end at all.
Yeah, no front clip. Does it have
no
an engine? Do you
Doesn't
see
look
an
like
engine in there?
No, I don't think so.
It's not in the picture, so I don't think
So
so.
it's firewall back, okay, and front suspension.
Yeah, which is not bad for a GTO.
I'm gonna say 9.
Ooh, I was thinking 6, but I'll still say 6.
All right, 3,900.
Ooh,
That's cheap.
yeah,
That's
not
cheap.
bad. That's doable for that, because
Yeah.
I mean you got to find a whole front end clip, and he said rust, so yeah, so you're gonna have to replace a bunch.
I
of
mean, I
body
think he's
panels.
priced right. Don't get me wrong. I think
Yeah.
he's actually pretty much on the
Mhm.
money as far as what he's asking. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
4-speed though. Now, when he
Yeah.
says air, does he mean like it's full of air instead of like
I-
full
I
of
think it's-
water or full of?
I think it's 90
full of
air.
s-
It's 90 air with the windows down. I think is what that is. I think that
Yeah.
All right, and that was the last one. So
that's the last one. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
you got to dig up some new ones for us for
Oh, I
next time for
definitely will, yep.
fun.
all right, yeah, I'm gonna have to stand up and get dinner, but I think we did pretty well.
Like I said, honestly, it's more needed today than ever before because nobody's selling value. Everybody's selling
Nobody
price.
knows how anymore. huh?
Everybody's selling price. So, and the hell of it is, what you have now, unfortunately, is a second, third, and even fourth generation sales manager at these dealerships that they were never trained how to sell value. So you can't teach what you don't know. Okay. I mean, if they were never taught it, if they never had to do it and make their living by it, how the hell are they going to teach somebody else? Right.
Yep.
You know,
An idea that might be a good one for us is to do a complete training module on selling value. I mean, we'll stick Advanta-STAR in there, but we'll make it actual training, and then what we can do is we can give that training away for anybody who signs up, and we can,
well,
we'll
I've
have
got
some
that. And
leads.
the next thing I'll be working on, I haven't revised it in 20 years from when I used to do franchise dealer training throughout the Midwest. I'm going to dive deeper into not only how we've got Advanta-STAR worked in 4 different places, 4 different steps in the 10-step process. Because see, again, most people don't know how to put it in. They don't know how to introduce it. They don't know how to present it, right?
Or they're afraid to.
And so forth. Even though, honestly, it's the easiest thing in the world to be able to either turn the screen around and let the customer see it, or put it on their phone and let them see it, or to print one off and be able to, hey, what else are you comparing this to? And let me give you a printout on what Advanta-STAR has to say about it from all third-party, non-biased, non-prejudiced, information. And then you can see it for yourself, Mr. Customer, right? Well, I mean, when I've offered to do that for somebody, I've never had somebody say, no, I don't want that. Because part of your brain is saying, no, idiot, you do want that. You know what I mean? Right. So even if you try to put on a brave face and you don't want to be cooperative, half your brain screaming at the other half saying, are you on drugs? Okay. Yes, you want to see this. Right.
Yeah.
But the
it's
other
like
thing
saying
that
to somebody that's looking at a used car, hey, why don't I give you a free Carfax on this and show you every written repair record and maintenance record that the owner had?
There you go.
No, I'm not interested in that crap. No.
Well, what I'll be working on next is, and I used to have this, but I can't find it. And so I'm going to have to redo it all from scratch. I've got it somewhere. I never throw away anything. So I have it. I just can't physically lay my hands on it. In all the world, you only have 4 personality types. And once you know which personality type you're dealing with, to be able to curtail the 10-step presentation and the information that is gleaned off of Advanta-STAR and putting that into the presentation that personality type needs in order for them to say, that makes sense to me. I get it. This person, not only that, but when you ever find somebody that gets you, they stand out like a sore thumb. Wow, this person really gets me. They understand what I'm asking. Man, we're connecting. We could be brothers from different mothers, right? So being able to put together how to identify each one of the 4 personality types and be able to curtail the sales presentation of the 10-step and Advanta-STAR into that personality type's needs in order for the sales process to fit them like a glove. That's going to be the next thing.